welcome to my Very Thoughtful World. I am Kenesha Berry with Very Thoughtful Life Coaching. Today I am excited because, as you guys know, for the month of June, it's all about the dads. This is Father's Day month, and sometimes the men feel like they get slighted, but here in the Very Thoughtful World, we are not doing that. And so tonight I'm super excited that my guest is a friend. He's amazing. He's smart. He's a genius.
Here we go.
Boy, like for real, he's like my boy. I love Ty. So this is Ty McDuffie. I'm excited to introduce you guys to him. Ty's going to tell you more about himself, but what's so cool about this podcast and having Ty on at this time is Ty just published his first book, because I believe there will be more. Yes, and it's called Daddy's Doing Hair. And I'm so excited for you guys. I can't wait to get my copy. So welcome, Ty. Tell everybody
Thank
about
you.
it.
All right, great. Well, how far back do you want me to go? Because there's a lot to this story. So I'm from a small town in North Carolina called Wallace, right? Joined the Air Force, moved around the world a little bit, and finally at the end of the road, settled down in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've dabbled in a bunch of different business ideas that I've had, whether that's creating an opportunity for college students to raise money for school by treating themselves as their own corporation with shares of themselves to sell, to launching a business to allow food-based companies to use underutilized commercial kitchen spaces to launch or grow their businesses. And the book is my latest thing that I've done. Well, when I say latest, it's kind of like the wrong thing. It's not correct, right? It's been sitting in my head for over 20 plus years, not just the children's book, but the adult version of it as well. So it's something that's just been on my heart for many, many years. And I just recently got the guts to actually go for it and put it out there. And, because releasing something to the world that, your child is a bit of like, it's soul bearing, right? But it's soul bearing to the entire world. Yeah. So, it took, some prayer and some meditation to get it done, but I did it. So I'm quite proud of it, actually.
Yeah. And I'm excited because Ty, you've told me about this book for a while. I'm just like all of us, like the last book I've done. I wrote that when my daughter was 2 years old. She's now 18. Mm-hmm. So what I love about your story and I want people to get is one, it's never too late. Like I always say, our dreams do not have expiration dates.
Absolutely.
And absolutely. I love that. Like, I love that our dreams don't expire. Mm-hmm. So tell people about the book. Like, I know what the book is about.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the book about? Daddy's Doing Hair. Whose hair are you doing, Dad?
So let me take you on the full journey of it, right? Okay. So it started out, the very, very first kernel of it was I had come home to visit from the Air Force, right? And I was at my mom's house and I was being nosy in my mom's room looking through stuff. And I found this notebook, right? And the notebook was something that my youngest sister, Charmaine, had written. And Charmaine was pregnant with her first child at the time. And so the book was like a journal kind of, which I'm really embarrassed to say I was reading her journal. But, it was such a touching and poignant thing to actually read, right? Because in the book, she literally said stuff like, she had already known the sex of the child. So she would say, hey, and so she knew the name. She would say things like, hey, Deja, I'm really scared about bringing you into the world right now. I don't have my legs under me, all these other kind of things. But she detailed her fears, her successes, her failures, all of those things in this book. So if I was to pick an absolute beginning point, that was it. That was the impetus to everything. That was the little kernel. And then fast forward a few years, me and my wife adopted 2 little girls. And one of the girls, I swear she didn't like me. Well, this. She didn't like me at all when she was adopted because some of the things that she had been through before the adoption just made her wary of people. So much so that like we would take them to church and she would like hide behind my wife whenever anybody would come to talk to us. She was just that scared of people. But I realized, and so for a few months after she was in our house, she would barely speak to me, man. She'd say like, they always called me daddy, but she was like, I'd say, hey, baby, how's your day? Fine, daddy. And she would just keep moving. She'd never give me more than just a few words. But then I noticed something. while I would do their hair or attempt to do their hair and have a ponytail like this and a ponytail like that and everything, when I was attempting to do their hair, she would literally start talking to me. And I thought it was the weirdest thing. And so I reached out to their social worker and I said, look, this little hate muffin that I have in my house all of a sudden will start talking to me when I do her hair. What's going on? And she said, well, she explained it to me like this. If you've ever watched a TV show where a child has been through something traumatic and they take them to a counselor or something, the counselor will give them a toy and let them play with it while they're, talking. And for somehow it'll like put them at ease and they start talking about more things while they're playing with it. It's actually called play therapy.
Okay.
So I didn't know, that I was doing anything like that. I was just trying to do her hair and bond with them. And recently I spoke to a friend of mine that's a psychologist, and she said it's even deeper than just the play therapy. She said what I was doing, unbeknownst to me, was not forcing a child to come up to my world, but I was going down into her world.
Wow.
And so that created an extra bond between us. Another thing, another turning point, not a turning point, but another thing that sparked everything with me was when my daughters were, I had already been writing all this stuff, just journaling things and all that over the years. But later, I think my girls might have been 10 or 11 at the time. We adopted them when they were 6 or 7. A friend of ours from the church came to me and he said, hey, man, I just want to know what it is that you do to build a relationship like what you have with your daughters. Because even now, man, my daughters are like 31 and 30, and they'll literally grab my hand to walk and hold my hand in the mall, or anywhere we go. So those were all kind of things, that led to it. So the children's book was going to be a giveaway with the adult book. I still have the manuscript that I've written. It's about 170, 180 pages, right, of, just a guide for fathers to build relationships with their daughter and in it, or daughters. And in it, I would kind of go through situations that I encountered with my girls over the years and what we learned from them, how they handled them, or how we handle it. I talked about some of my failures in dealing with the girls, just being completely transparent, because none of us are going to make it through this world without making mistakes, or as I like to put it, having scars, right? Absolutely. And so, and I talked about this a little bit in my podcast too, but whenever we have scars, we're presented with a decision, right? And there's typically 2 choices where it comes to the scars that we have. Either we can hide those scars and act like they've never been there, but we still bear the weight of them, or we can learn from those scars and the attainment of those scars and improve our lives or someone else's through that experience and that learning. So yeah, the book would include those kind of things. But what I ultimately want it to be when it is published, once I go through the editing process with this one, is, again, it's a guide to fathers to build relationships with their daughters, but it's also going to be a keepsake book. Because part of the things that are going to be in the book are like little pockets to where the dad, when he's doing his daughter's hair, can take a barrette, put it in the pocket, button it up, and write a note about it. It's going to have pages for journaling and that kind of thing, so that the dad can put like my sister's little journal. He can put his thoughts in there, about what's going on, whether that's a success or failure or fear or what have you. He can put that in there. And also it's going to have coloring book pages in the end so that the daughter can color those things in. I have a funny story about the coloring book stuff. But, so one day my vision is that the dad will be able to, let's say on the wedding day, he can hand the daughter this book that he's been keeping over years as, a reminder of that bond that they built over the years. The funny story about the coloring book, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling on, man. You know me. I
know who I asked to be on my podcast. I knew this would be my day. I could just sit back and be like,
absolutely. Yeah. So one of the cool things about the coloring book in the kids version is one little girl had colored hers in, right? And she actually came here with her family yesterday. So we're here just, hanging out and everything. And she had signed the page, and oh my God, it's the cutest little thing. And I'll explain what she signed first. So part of the book is when I adopted the girls, I had never been a parent before. I'd never obviously been a parent of girls before.
Right.
So I was like, okay, how do I do this? There's no handbook. So one day I wrote what I called a daddy's covenant to his daughters. And in that covenant was like 12 rules. And it was things like I will always understand. Some of these I still remember. I will always understand the importance of my role in my daughter's lives as a measuring stick by which their adult relationships will be measured. Or I'll always remind my daughter of her greatness and that, she is her abilities are limitless and therefore she's beyond labels, those kind of things. It was 12 rules, right? And I took that because it was for me. I took that and I printed it off and I signed it and I dated it and I carried it in my wallet for maybe about 12 years. It was all raggedy. I don't know what happened to the final copy, but anyway, I put that in the book, right? And, I had the signature space for the dad and the date, and then I added something. It looked like it's in the little girl's handwriting that says, I can sign it too. And so this little girl and her dad had signed theirs and she bought the book to the house, right? Yeah. And so my other friend had come to the house and he was, he bought his copy because he wanted me to sign it for him. And so the little girl's copy got misplaced and she was running around the house looking for it and couldn't find it and everything. And so she saw his and she tried to take it from him because she thought it was hers. And he was like, no, this is mine. She literally picked up his book and starts flipping through to find the page that she signed. And so she saw that it wasn't hers and she was just dejected. We eventually found it, but I thought it was so neat.
That's a lot.
Yeah, because, that's ultimately what it's about, right? Is that relationship and showing the importance of the relationship. And she found so much value in that book that even right now, because she signed her name and her daddy signed it, it had a special value to her.
How old is she, Ty?
I believe she's 5.
That's, what's so beautiful about that story is one, so many of us as little girls, we didn't have that, right?
Yeah.
Like I grew up, I know my dad, I could hang out with my dad when I wanted to, but he wasn't in the house with me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't kind of get to have that kind of daddy-daughter relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember one of the most powerful things I read, I don't know how old I was, probably late teens, early 20s, going through my emotional, daddy issue stuff, but not at the time, not having the language for it. But it was an article in Essence, and it says little girls yearn for their daddies.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because a lot of times as moms, particularly like this time of year, you're going to see a lot of single moms do the thing where they say, I'm the mom and the dad.
Yeah.
And people tend to think that because they give so much love to their children, particularly in a single parent home, that your love can somehow erase that yearning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it can void that desire or that need because, hey, I've given you so much love. He hasn't done this. He wasn't there for you. Just let it go. You can't let it go. And I really I love the fact that this little girl at 5 years old, she's already displaying that. And I pray that her relationship with her dad continues.
Yeah.
But I also, as maybe some mom will watch this. One, I want her to be real honest about the yearning that's in her heart if she didn't grow up with her dad.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And 2, I want her to make space for her daughter to be able to say, I miss my dad without being ridiculed for it or punished for it because she doesn't know what to do with those emotions.
Yeah.
But one of the coolest things I heard about kids and emotions is our pain just needs to be witnessed.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think we got to fix it, particularly as parents. We got to solve it. So we think that because our kids aren't talking about it, they must be okay. No, they're not talking about it because we taught them that if you say something, I'm going to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to make you recognize that makes me uncomfortable. So now the kid is protecting the parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I pray that as many little girls and the little girl that's in all of us get that book.
Yeah, thank you. And you brought up some really, really super interesting points. Like the first one, when I was writing the version for the adults, right? One of the things that I did was I literally, because I didn't know any better, I put an ad on Craigslist, right? And I said, hey, I'm writing this book about father-daughter relationships. I'm looking for adult women to give me their insight on either how if they had a relationship with their dad, how that affected them, as well as if they didn't have a relationship with their dad. And I'm gonna tell you what, man, these were grown women, and some of the stories were heart-wrenching, right? Mm-hmm. And I included them in my manuscript, but one that really stuck out to me was this one lady that said, look, my dad, he essentially abandoned me, and I'm scared to have kids because I feel like I would do the same thing to them that he did to me. And some of these things, man, they've had the results of the actions of, the results of not having a father in their lives reverberate to this day in very, very powerful ways. Another thing that you mentioned that was interesting to me, well, out of several things that you said, but was like how mothers might feel that, their love can replace the absence of a father. Now, coming from the perspective of a son that didn't have a dad, right? Yeah. I love my mom dearly. Everybody knows I'm a mama's boy, and I'm one of those kids, even as an adult, you say something about my mama, we got to fight. Right. But, there were certain things that I just couldn't get from my mom, and this is just speaking from my personal perspective, right? So there were things like I didn't understand as a grown man when, I didn't understand in a relationship before I got married. How do you know who drives the car when you go to the store together? Because in my eyes, it was always just mama. That's all I had. So I didn't understand all that. I didn't know how to shave. And I was in the military. I left for the military, didn't know how to shave. I literally learned how to shave in the military because I didn't have that example. So, that's a different perspective than what we're talking about. But nonetheless, it shows how, that absence can, affect you. Another thing, with my mom, God, you touched on so many things, right? With how it becomes a situation where the child is protecting the mom or the mother. I did that too. Yeah. Because I didn't want to bring up even though I wanted to know certain things, I never would bring up questions about that because I didn't want to bring up painful conversation with her. So I get that. I get all of that.
Yeah. And for me, I'm a little, I guess I'm a little bit of a dreamer. Mm-hmm. In that I really am somehow trying to create a world where we're safe to be vulnerable enough to have these conversations. Absolutely. And I guess to some people it feels unrealistic, but here's the thing: it's things that we're all struggling with. Mm-hmm. Because the interesting thing about life and being a parent, you can be in a house with your children, and they could still feel like you're abandoning them or you're rejecting that they're not there. Like we grew up, Andre and I raised both Bryce and Brianna. We thought we did a great job. They sat down and told us, like, y'all didn't do so good. Yeah. I was at first I was appalled, but then I thought, you know what? They have every right to share with us their experience and what it was to grow up with us as their parents. Yeah. Because their perspective was so different from ours. They're these little people looking up at these big people who we're thinking we're giving you the world, we're turning you around. And what they was experiences was y'all keep taking us from people.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
People that we love, people that, we thought was family. Every time we look up, you guys are moving us somewhere else. And we're like, oh, we thought we was giving you Egypt and we're giving you this. And we're giving these things, but we didn't think about what we was taking.
Mm-hmm. You had a clutch the pearls moment.
Yeah. But I'm thankful that because of the emotional work that I teach and I do myself, that I was able to create space to hear that without being defensive.
Yeah. In response to your very first statement about you trying to create this world where people can be vulnerable, right? First of all, it's totally necessary. I can only speak for what I am and what I know, but for Black people, man, we need that space because so often we're forced to hold in our emotions, whether it's with our with our families or even in the workplace or anywhere. We're always constricted, And so I think it's definitely something that we need to do is to build those spaces. Also, I don't think it's too big of a dream to have, man, that you're going to be the one to build this. I firmly believe that right now I'm sitting on a call with the person that is going to change the world in that aspect. I mean, I'm dead serious, right? And I've recently adopted this saying, I coined it rather, small actions yield big results.
Wow.
Yeah. So even though you might, start off small, talking to some guy that just published his first kids book, one day it's going to be it's going to, have worldwide ramifications. Every fire starts the exact same way with one little spark. Right. Yeah. So I believe in you. It's just a matter of time, man. All I ask is that when you go on Oprah, you get me a seat on the front row. That's all I'm asking.
That would be, like I always say, from your mouth to God ears. I've had so many people say that kind of thing to me. And absolutely, she is. I think this year I put her back on my vision board. I don't know if I put her back up there, but I know for years she was on my vision board. When she ended the show, I was like, no.
That's right. That's right. Well, she's gonna have to come out and do
come back. She's gonna have to come back. Maybe have me on her podcast or something.
Absolutely.
But I want you to share with the audience, being that not only were you a new dad, you're an adopted dad. Tell me about, what does this book mean to you and your girls? Like, what did the girls think about this book?
Okay, so the girls absolutely love the book. So throughout the process, well, it was already written, right? And then when I was going through the process of getting an illustrator, I would show them the images and stuff, right? And they were just like, "Oh my God, Dad, I love this," and go for it. And I would say, "Well, what do I need to change?" "Nothing, Dad. This is perfect." Yada yada yada. So that's one aspect of it. But that poem. The book is essentially a poem that I wrote, right? And it was in regards to one of my daughters. And so, and this is sad, but I don't have it memorized, but it was telling the story about how one of my daughters, and specifically, didn't want me to know how much she was enjoying me doing her hair, but they'll bring it up to this day how they really did. And so the story talks about, it starts out by saying, I like when Daddy does my hair, but I'll never let him see the smiles and grins on my face that show how much it means to me. And then it'll say stuff. It says something like, instead, I switch and fidget and fuss and fight and give my meanest stare or two or something like that. But it's literally exactly how she would behave, but, she would talk to me and everything, but, she didn't act like she liked me or anything. But they love that. They love the aspect of, me telling their story. And both of them have come to me and said, "Dad, I want to help write the next one." And and my oldest is so funny. She said, "Dad," she's given me several ideas. And one of them that I think we're going to do together is, so my daughters are two extreme opposites, right? Well, this.
I know, T.
Yeah. T is like the sweetest, nicest, never gets angry kind of person. Whereas Kiara is the one, I call her my rock star. If I could do a picture of Kiara, this would be her. That kind of thing. So Kiara will fight you. Kiara will do whatever. But Tiandra is like, "Hey, Dad, the next book you write, let's do a story about how I was scared of everything and Kiara wasn't scared of anything." Wow. It was like they were the total opposites. And she was like, "Yeah, you can talk about how I overcame those, those fears." Because like Tiandra was scared of everything. She was scared of bugs. She was scared of trees, if the bark of trees, the way it looked. This chick literally thought there were sharks in every body of water bigger than a glass.
Really?
She thought there were sharks in ditches. She thought there were sharks in lakes everywhere. She would not get in water, But meanwhile, Kiara, we'd she would jump in a pool, right? And didn't know how to swim. And she'd jump in the deep end just. So it was just funny, the difference of the two. And it was like, so here's, speaking about the adoption process or the adoption experience, right? So we didn't when you adopt a kid, especially ours were 6 and 7, right? So they already have their personalities built, somewhat. And so it was so funny because Tiandra wouldn't speak to me, but Kiara just seemed like she was just so sweet and innocent and all of this other stuff. And I asked the social worker, I said, hey, y'all got these mixed up. That's the mean one over there. That's the nice one. And she said, no, you're in the honeymoon period. And I was like, honeymoon period? Nah, that girl's sweet. Let me tell you something. That girl came out of the blue, and I thought she was everything short of possessed at one time.
Oh my goodness.
For years, man. Let me tell you what some of the stuff Kiara did. She told one teacher that she wouldn't move to the front of the class. She said, I ain't Rosa Parks. You can't make me move to the front of the class, which made me think, that's cool. And but you need to get your facts right. Before you say that. It's cool that you stood up for yourself. And it was funny. So there was that. She kicked some boy in the crotch, which was, and it's so funny. It's funny now looking back on it. Right, but it's funny because when we got on her about it, she said, well, I wasn't aiming for him. I was aiming for the boy next to me. So, okay. So Keith, that doesn't make it better, first of all. And so what you're telling me is simultaneously your aim is great to hit a small spot in a little boy, but at the same time it's horrible because you hit the wrong boy. Right. I mean, there was, telling a teacher, stop freaking talking to me. There was a teacher an art teacher saying, hey, you need to do it this way. She says, I'll take the 0. I'm not doing it your way. There was, dude, it got so bad that when you had caller ID and everybody had a house phone, we'd see Wake County Public Schools. We're like, I ain't answering that. You're gonna answer that. We wouldn't answer because it was always about her. Wow. Meanwhile, you had the good kid that never did anything wrong. And it was just so hard because you had those two opposite ends. You didn't want to, so it wound up being that you wind up rewarding the bad kid for just being good, And he was like, but Dad, I'm always good. Why is Kiara always getting rewards? Because Kiara go in there and lose her doggone mind. That's why Kiara gets rewards for just doing the stuff. But yeah, it was interesting, man. It was really interesting. And then because our adoption, was what was called an open adoption, right? Meaning it wasn't like people could easily find out where the girls were, which they did, or that they were adopted. And so, and the girls knew. We never hid that from them, but we couldn't because they were 6 and 7. They knew that They had one family and they went to another. There was a fine line, and this is me being vulnerable here. There was a fine line that we had to walk because you never, ever, 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 and I would never do this, and I don't think anybody should, talk down about somebody's birth family. Right. So even though in our hearts, we knew some of the stuff that had happened, or not that it happened, well, kind of, we knew things that had happened. We never said anything disparaging about that family. Never at all. Never. And I would often try to explain to the girls that, hey, just because somebody's an adult doesn't mean that they make mistakes, doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes. Right. It doesn't mean that they always make the right decisions. It just means that they're older. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so, I try to always explain that to them as well. So it was interesting. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend, especially in the African American community, there's a lot of kids that are, in need of adoption. And I'll bring up another thing. One of my big dreams, Kanisha, is I want to one day open some group homes, right? Not the ordinary group homes, but when a child reaches a certain age and they're in the foster care system, what happens is they what's called age out of the system, which means whatever family is helping them has, they don't get any more money for them or anything like that. And let's be honest, some people are in the foster care program just to make a little extra money. It's just what it is. So, and there's several, and I don't remember the exact numbers, right? But there's statistics about kids that age out of the foster care system. The girls have a much higher rate of teenage pregnancy, dropouts, drug abuse, running away. every negative statistic you can think of is higher in the kids that age out of the system. And then, while I was researching just the idea of the group homes, I learned that, where was I going with this? They age out, they don't get anything else. I thought about something. I'm sorry. You know how my mind.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought about something, and this is a really simple thing, but nobody ever thinks about this. Let's say a kid that was in the foster care system ages out of the system and goes to college.
Yeah.
Where do they go when the dorms shut down for the holidays? They don't have homes. They literally are done. They have nowhere to go. No family. If the foster family, which happens a lot, just says, hey, we're done. Yeah. It happens more than you would think, right? So my dream is to open homes that these kids can say, they're how. Another statistic, because a lot of times they don't learn life things. They don't know how to pay bills. They don't know how to do any of this stuff. Right. So now backtrack to my dream of these houses. I want to have a place where these kids, maybe give them 2 years after they age out of the system, that they can call a place where they can call home, where they can come back to during the holidays, where they have someone there that, can take care of them or help them. I want to do bring in people, specialists, to talk about soft skills, interview skills, cooking, all the things that they would need. And the way I want to staff this is the houses they wouldn't be co-ed. So you'd have houses for girls and houses for boys. I want to get women with children from women's shelters to actually run the houses and be like the house moms. And everybody would have like a period of a few years that they could do this before, the option of them to have to move on would happen. But that's my dream, Kanisha. And again, small actions can yield big results. Absolutely. One day that's going to be the thing.
Yeah. Well, I pray that comes to be, because, as you said, a lot of us don't even think about those kind of things because we've never experienced it. Yeah. And imagine many of us grow up maybe with our parents, and there are still some like skills that we didn't get.
Absolutely.
Bryce would call home and he was just like, his roommates almost broke the dryer because nobody knew to take the filter.
Take the lint
out. And he just thought, how crazy is it? I was like, well, your daddy taught y'all, so I didn't have to wash clothes.
And it's absolutely true, because I'm from the country, right? Yeah. I ain't know nothing about no checks or nothing like that, because when we got paid in the country, we took it to the local Piggly Wiggly and cashed the check. So I'm in the Air Force, not understanding checking accounts. In my mind, I got checks. That means I got money. So I'm writing checks for things all over, but not tracking anything, man. I wound up getting in trouble, for that, but I didn't know because nobody taught me anything about that, which is another. Financial literacy is a big thing, right? That's a small part of that financial literacy, but it is a thing. And, I was never taught that either. So.
Yeah. Well, Ty, coming to a close, I want to ask you, Father's Day is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
What does Father's Day mean to you? And what do you want women to know that we missed?
Oh God! Oh, you're trying to get me in trouble now. Clutch the pearls.
Right. We're gonna speak in general, not your wife. Just women to know.
Yeah.
About,
I mean, I love Father's Day. Not because of stuff. I could care less about stuff. Right. I would just like time where we get together. We can be in the living room. We can do whatever and just watch TV and play games and eat popcorn. It's nothing big. And I would bet that's the same way for most dads, right? They don't care about the stuff. They really don't. If anything, if you had to give me anything other than that, just give me some peace and quiet. That's all I want, but it's also, that's kind of a selfish way to look at it because my daughters are always wanting to give me stuff. And so it might sound like a cop out, but I don't ask them for any, I don't tell them what I want. Just get me whatever you want to get me. Right. Just because someone once told me, you can't block me from getting my blessing. Right. So allow me to do for you. So I allow them, if they want to buy me something, that's cool. Whatever you feel like buying me, I'll love it just the same. And, you know, like one of the things they do it almost every holiday, they'll buy me a bag of those gummy savers, the Lifesavers candy, because they know I like it. And, you know, it's not the size or cost of the gift or anything like that. It's literally the fact that they thought enough about me to want to get me something. Yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome. I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you.
And we will make sure that we link where everyone can get your book.
Okay.
We're going to make sure that
You mean this book, Daddy's Doing Hair by McDuffie, that's listed on Amazon now?
Okay, so everybody we know that we can get them on Amazon. Also, Ty has a podcast that is phenomenal to listen to.
Thank you.
I want to make sure you guys check out the link and check out his podcast as well. Thank you so much, Ty, for coming on. I can't wait to just hang out and then also get my copy of the book. And I want you to sign it, of course.
Of course, I got you.
All right, we'll have a great evening. Thank you all for watching, and we can't wait to hear the feedback and make sure, if you don't do anything else, you get this book.
Do you feel stressed and overwhelmed? Are you exhausted from taking care of everyone and everything? Does it feel like your thoughts are going a mile a minute? If so, you could use a getaway. You are invited to a relaxing women's retreat to beautiful Lake Gaston, North Carolina. While there, you will connect to the bold, courageous woman God created you to be. Kanisha Berry, your host, is a world-renowned mindset and relationship coach, international TEDx talk speaker, and author. She will facilitate powerful workshops that will teach you strategies to overcome self-doubt, worry, and fear. You are going to learn techniques that will reduce stress and overwhelm so that you can live with more confidence and create the life you truly want. If you are ready for the ultimate self-care weekend, sign up for Awakening Women's Retreat, Lake Gaston, North Carolina.